Brave and the Bold, Part 1. Now, I was really excited for this. It was going to be a Flash and Green Lantern episode. Flash is a favorite of mine. Green Lantern has been in and out of the book, not necessarily the character. I like many of the lanterns. In fact, I don't. Of all the main lanterns I know of, I pretty much generally like them all, to varying degrees. But I've always been, I don't know. But for many years, I would say, I've been a Flash fan. Like, a serious Flash fan. And my Flash has always been Wally West. The comics have totally screwed that up and brought Barry back from the dead in a horrible bunch of crap. And so I can't even really read the book right now. But I hope one day they'll bring Wally back. Till then, till they pull their heads out of their butts and either start writing good issues with Barry. I'm not reading it. Alright, anyways, that's all comic junk. You want to know about the episode and what I thought. It's a good episode. I like it. And it has one of the most... It's very rare when you can do this. Now, we all know at some point writers need to pad their scripts. They have run times to meet, and they fall short, or they don't have enough story to spread around, and so they need to throw in some bit of weirdness, or have some long trail of exposition or pointless scene. If you watch enough television, you've seen enough movies, you can pick out padding sometimes. This one is full of padding. And in a miracle, none of it is bad. In fact, I would say that some of the most fun to be had in the entire episode is in the padding. This was based on I don't know who, I forget who wrote the story, but I think it was Dwayne McDuffie. I don't know. I may have missed if he actually wrote one before this. I know he's very prominent in the Justice League series as it goes, through Unlimited especially. But he did the teleplay, as they say, which I have to assume is someone handed him like a very rough outline of what happens in the episode, and then they're like, meet the runtime, and he was just, well, I got to put in stuff. I do not have enough content to make this an entire episode. This does not work. If I try to draw this out, it'll just be crappy. And so it's full of, it's absolutely padding. Little scenes and even bigger scenes that if you eliminate them entirely do not affect the plot. But each of them is fun. They manage the one thing, like I said, this is the hard thing, making padding fun. Where you can recognize, yeah, we didn't need that scene, but you don't care because it was fun. Do we need the opener to run as long with the two archaeologists sitting in the skull? I mean, it's just kind of a one-off joke. It's funny, but you could probably cut that down to like a couple sentences and just have the intro. I bet they don't play it for long, but they have a comedic. You could probably just eliminate that entire scene. It doesn't really affect anything. I mean, it adds a little thing, and it involves Gorilla City, and I assume that at some point maybe they're going to go back to Gorilla City. I mean, the villain of this one is Grodd, one of my favorite Flash villains. Not necessarily. I think my favorite is still. It's a toss-up between Captain Cold, like classic Captain Cold, like Jeff Johns. Was not really pre-New 52 Captain Cold. There we go. Or Mirror Master number 2, the Scottish asshole. But I always am happy to see Grodd. I prefer the more savage, gonna rip your throat out and mentally manipulate you Grodd. But playing the more sophisticated angle is cool too. You get to see a gorilla with telepathic powers manipulate people and beat the snot out of folk. What's not to like? The whole chase scene with the mind controlled uh, scientists, you can tell that they padded that out because they have all these things where he's stopping and helping other people or doing this, that. And it's a great action scene. I don't want to get it wrong, but when you stop and think, if he's got all that speed to do those things, and yet he's having a hard time catching up with a truck because they're shooting at him, he's faster than that. He would be running beside the truck in no time. He's running up buildings, he's creating whirlwinds to get rid of debris. If he can move that fast, and he can, he should get to catch up to that truck no problem. So, you know they're just milking this scene. But it's so fun. It's so fun. You don't care. You're just like, I know this doesn't make much sense, but I don't care. They're drawing it out, and I don't care. And that's the miracle. And they have the whole thing where Wally gets blacked out, and they kind of have this whole thing. And they try to do it to introduce... they use it as a tool to have this cool, like, freak out psychedelic scene and throw in little hints and nods to the Flash's backstory. Now, they kind of just blended Wally's backstory with Barry's. I mean, they have the walking up to the chemicals and the lightning strike. That's Barry's origin, not Wally's per se, although it's extremely similar. You can look it up and just go, wow, couldn't they have thought of something better? But no. And for some reason, they decided to use Central City instead of Keystone. Now, for mild comic book digression, Keystone and Central are twin cities. Up here where I live, the closest... I mean, I actually live in a twin city divided by a river, like Central and Keystone. I live in Grand Forks, which is in North Dakota, and East Grand Forks in Minnesota, and there's the river divide. So, I mean, that's something I live in. It's a daily experience for a lot of other people. But Barry Allen lived in Central City, and that was his. It was the city. It was the gimmick was supposed to be, this is the city that's always on go, go, go. And that was where Keystone, it didn't really have, it was supposed to be the smaller of the two, and it didn't really have as much identity. But in the time where this cartoon was made, I believe was still in Jeff Johns' run, where he really fleshed out Keystone as kind of like a St. Louis, kind of an industrial, kind of like a St. Louis, Detroit-ish. Keystone was where, like, you had a bunch of union workers and factories and, people who got up and did the 9 to 5 grunt job at a factory or a workplace, building cars or bottling stuff. It was an industrial town, and they were proud of it. And then they use Central City, which to me has always been the more boring, because it's just, ooh, look, we're fast. Who cares? Keystone has character. Keystone, I always think of Keystone as St. Louis. I don't know when they created that, if that's what they had in mind, or even that's what Jeff Johns, when he put that spin on it, had that in mind. But St. Louis, I like St. Louis. It's a very interesting town, but it has that industrial, and it's a little bit grimy, and it has a little bit of rundown feel, and it is in that kind of cusp of, because the Flash, both Central and Keystone, are in about where the cross between the South and the Midwest is, which is about, if anybody's been to St. Louis, you're pretty much above it. You're kind of still in Midwestern terms, but once you get that, you're in the South. The hats, the big hats come out, and the cowboy boots go on. I mean, you have that in the Midwest too, but once you get south, it goes full force. You know, you are in that land. It's like a cultural divide right through the city, almost, which is awesome. That's another thing I like about it. This has just turned into why I like St. Louis, apparently. um, but they have more yeah. So I'm kind of lost my entire train. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this episode. I really don't, because not a lot happens, and it's ridiculously padded out. But it's padded out with fun stuff. I can't say negative things about it because I didn't react negatively to it. I'm like, that doesn't need to be there. That doesn't need to be there. That doesn't need to be there. But I'm glad it is, and it's fun. And like I said, the only thing I wish they would have done Keystone and had that industrial uh, character, that vibe that I really liked, instead of Central City, which is more boring. And it's just why the Flash, Barry Allen, in this new crappy run, is once again back in Central, where things are boring. I'm gonna quit talking. I've completely went off the rails. I have nothing more to say. I really hope they can pull it together. I don't. They don't need. It's a lighter, more punchy vibe they seem to be going for, so they don't have such a tight script, and it allows for more fun and exploration. So I'm wondering if the next episode is going to be tighter, or if they're just going to keep continuing to have fun and throwing goofy new things our way. I'm completely out of steam, and I'm still talking.